He said you should probably start going to the gym more. Not mean about it, he said it like he was looking out for you. Like he has high standards for himself and he just wants the same for you. And you almost bought it. You almost said, yeah, you're right. But something felt off, and you couldn't name what. Or he didn't reply for 6 hours, and when you brought it up he said, I was busy, not everything is about you. And you apologized for asking. Or he made a joke about your cooking in front of his friends and everyone laughed and you laughed too, and on the drive home you couldn't figure out why you felt wrong. He'd say you're being dramatic. Maybe you are. He makes jokes about everyone. It's just his humor. Or he went quiet for 2 days after you went out with your friends. He didn't say you shouldn't go. He just got cold after. And when you asked what was wrong, he said nothing, in a tone that meant everything. So next time your friends invited you out, you said you were busy. He didn't ask you to cancel. You just did. You keep going back and forth. Is this manipulation or is this just a relationship? Is he controlling or does he just have strong opinions? And that, not being able to tell, is the part that's making you feel like you're going crazy. You're not crazy. There are 7 specific tactics that make it impossible to tell. Each one is designed to look like something else, like caring, like honesty, like a bad day, like your fault. And each one works on you specifically, because it's targeting a wound that was installed before you turned 10. The first is love bombing. He bought you flowers on date 2. By date 3, he was texting, I've never met anyone like you. By week 2, he was calling you every morning, planning your weekends, showing up with coffee at your office. He remembered everything you said. He took care of you in a way nobody ever had, drove you to the doctor, cooked dinner, held you when you cried. It felt like being found after a lifetime of being invisible. But it wasn't love. It was a strategy to secure your attachment before you had time to evaluate who he actually is. Stutzenberg and colleagues surveyed 484 people and found that love bombing is positively correlated with narcissistic tendencies and negatively correlated with self-esteem, meaning it's driven by the narcissist's own insecurity, not genuine affection. Their conclusion was direct. Love bombing is a control mechanism, not a loving act. It worked on you specifically because you grew up with conditional love. You had to earn attention by being helpful or quiet or perfect. Someone flooding you with unconditional intensity didn't feel suspicious. It felt like the thing you'd been starving for your entire life. You didn't fall for a trick. You finally got fed. The second is intermittent reinforcement. He texted you 20 times before lunch, funny, attentive, planning your evening. Then nothing for the rest of the day. You texted at 6 p.m., nothing. At 9 p.m., nothing. At 11 p.m. he replied, fell asleep and sent a heart. Next day he's back, 20 texts again. Then gone for a whole day. No pattern you can predict. Your brain doesn't get addicted to consistent love. It gets addicted to unpredictable love. Research by Schultz and colleagues found that dopamine neurons in the midbrain fire more intensely for unexpected rewards than for reliable ones. A 50% variable reward schedule, sometimes yes, sometimes no, produces the most persistent activation of any conditioning pattern. Same mechanism as a slot machine. Same mechanism as his texting pattern. And if your parents' mood was the weather of your house, sunny then storming with no warning, your nervous system was already trained on this exact schedule. You're not addicted to him. You're addicted to the pattern. That pattern was installed when you were 4. The third is future faking. Next month things will calm down and we'll take that trip. I know I need to work on this, give me time. Next year will be different. You've been hearing next month for 11 months. You stay not because you're gullible, but because leaving means admitting the future he promised was never real. And if you grew up hearing, things will be better when, you learn to live in potential instead of reality. The child who held onto rare moments of warmth as proof of the real parent is the same adult who keeps waiting for him to become the person he was on date 3. The fourth is making you doubt your own perception. You saw the text from another woman on his phone. He said it was his coworker. You know it wasn't, but he said it with such certainty that you started wondering if you read it wrong. Then he said, "Why are you always so paranoid?" And by the end of the conversation, you were apologizing for looking at his phone. Klein, Wood, and Bartz published a framework for this in 2025 that explains exactly why it works. In close relationships, your brain doesn't just use your own senses to understand reality. It also relies on your attachment figure as a source of truth. When someone you're bonded to contradicts your perception, your brain faces a conflict. Trust your senses or trust the bond. And over repeated cycles, you start downweighting your own experience and upweighting theirs. Not because you're weak, because that's how attachment works in every human brain. But here's what made you specifically vulnerable. Your childhood taught you this. Disagreeing with your parents' version of reality was dangerous. His version wins because your mother's version always won. Your nervous system is running a program where your inner world was never the trustworthy one. The fifth is triangulation. He mentions his ex casually like it's nothing. "She texted me today just about some old stuff." He talks about a woman at work. "She's so easy to talk to." He doesn't say he's interested in them. He just places them in your awareness so you spend your energy competing instead of questioning. It works because you learned in childhood that love was scarce and you had to compete for it with a sibling, with a parent's work, with their new partner. Your nervous system responds by working harder to prove your worth, which is exactly the compliance he's engineering. The sixth is the silent treatment. You brought up something that bothered you and he hasn't spoken to you in 2 days. Not a fight, he just stopped. No texts, no eye contact at home, walks past you like you're furniture. And your body is in full panic, nausea, can't eat, can't sleep, replaying everything you said trying to find the sentence that caused this. Eisenberger, Lieberman, and Williams ran an fMRI study on social exclusion and found that being shut out activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same brain region involved in physical pain. Self-reported distress was strongly correlated with activation in that region. The silent treatment doesn't feel like distance. It registers in the same neural hardware as a physical injury. Infants in the still face experiment become distressed within seconds when a caregiver goes emotionally blank. For children of emotionally unavailable parents, that wasn't an experiment. It was Tuesday. If you had a parent who withdrew when they were angry, the silent treatment isn't just uncomfortable. Your body reads it as a survival-level threat because that's exactly what it was when you were small. The seventh is victim reversal. You found messages on his phone. He had sex with someone else. You confronted him, and within 20 minutes the conversation was about you, how you violated his privacy by checking his phone, how your trust issues are the real problem, how he can't be with someone who goes through his things. He cheated, and you ended the night apologizing for catching him. This works because your fawn response, what Pete Walker identified as the survival strategy of appeasing to stay safe, doesn't evaluate whether his accusation makes sense. It detects his anger and activates immediately. Appease, apologize, shrink. Walker described fawn types as people who act as if the price of admission to any relationship is the forfeiture of all their needs, rights, and boundaries. That program has been running since your parents' anger was a survival-level threat, and compliance was the only tool you had. If this is making sense of something you've been carrying, consider subscribing. This channel breaks down how your childhood built the patterns running your adult life. Every tactic works because it speaks fluent childhood. The love bombing works because your parents' love was conditional, so unconditional attention felt like oxygen. The intermittent reinforcement works because your parents' mood was unpredictable, so unpredictable love feels normal. The doubt-making works because your parents said you're overreacting, so you learn to trust their reality over yours. The silent treatment works because your parents' withdrawal was your first experience of emotional death. The victim reversal works because your parents' anger taught you that keeping the peace was more important than being right. Your childhood taught you love requires surveillance, self-erasure, and labor. The neuroscience says the opposite. Secure attachment is built on predictability, not intensity. Safety, not scarcity. The fact that you keep checking whether your feelings are allowed is itself the evidence that someone taught you your inner world wasn't trustworthy. 7 tactics, 1 wound. A childhood where love was conditional, unpredictable, or required you to abandon yourself to keep it. The tactics didn't create that wound. They walked through a door that was already open.